So Genesis 4 goes on to say that Adam knew Eve, and she conceived a son, which makes me believe that they really didn't live that long without falling, because I just think they would have had kids earlier on, or relatively quickly. So I don't think they spent much time in the Garden of Eden before falling. But they produced a son, and they named him Cain, and then after a while, Abel came, so they had two sons. We're not sure if it was the same pregnancy or not, if they were twins, but we do know that Cain was born first. And it's interesting that Eve says that she did it with the help of God. And I think we all need to realize this. You know, Christians are typically okay with this, but there's a lot of people that think that they produced everything on their own, which is a lie. You know, everything that our life produces, God gave us the ability to produce it. So we need to recognize that. But I want to focus on the names of Cain and Abel. Cain means possession, and Abel means breath or vapor. Now, his name might have come to mean that because his life was so short. So I'm not sure if his name meant that before or after his death. But let's just focus on that for a little bit, that Cain means possession and Abel means vapor or breath. And I think this is a great comparison to do two different types of people. There's a type of person that's just trying to get possessions while they're here. They're trying to get everything they can in this life because they really just have this mindset that this is it. They only think as far as this life is concerned. They don't think much further after that. And then there's a kind of person that thinks, like the name of Abel, that our life is just a breath. It tells us that in James 4, that our life is like a mist. It's here and then it's gone. You know, if you think of like hairspray or any other type of spray, that you can see it and then it's gone. That's what our life is like. And it's neat because that's what Abel's name means. And I think that really determines how we live our life. And I think that determines the kind of sacrifices we give to God, because the Bible goes on to say that Cain offered a sacrifice of vegetation because he was a farmer. He tilled the ground. And he didn't, it seems to say that he didn't give his first fruits. It's after some time he gave his offering. And I believe the offering was supposed to be blood, right? Because we already went over this in the previous chapter, that the fig leaves were not good for covering the sin of man, but God had to kill an animal and cover them in the skin. And I think so it is with these sacrifices. It has to be a blood sacrifice for sin. Now, even though, it tells us in Hebrews that these sacrifices were symbols of Jesus Christ, they actually didn't redeem sin, but that's still what God wanted them to do. So Cain's sacrifice was not accepted by God, but Abel's was, because it tells us that Abel, it was his, the first fruit, just the first and the fatted, it was the best he had, and the first that he had is what he sacrificed, and it was an animal, so it was accepted. So, I just want to focus on those two names. What type of person are you? Are you the type of person that you live a Cain life of possession where you're just trying to possess? Or do you live a life of Abel where you realize your life is a breath, it's a vapor, it's here and then it's gone? Because that's really going to dictate how you live your life. You're not going to be so upset about sacrificing to God and giving him what you have. If it comes to it, you're not going to worry about giving your life for Christ if somebody says that they're going to take your life because of your faith. So I just want to encourage you to live that life that realizes that life is short. We're going to be, I wish we could really grasp eternity compared to this short life. Our lives are very short. Very short. Imagine it. I know it's not even close, but the time that we spend in the womb, those 9 months, compared to, say, the average 70, 80 years, which that's not even close because it just keeps going and going and going. We don't remember our time in the womb. And I think once we get to heaven, this time will will be very insignificant, even though it determines how we spend eternity, whether we go to heaven or hell, and how much we built up to have an inheritance in heaven. So think of that. Just our life is very short. So don't worry about too much. That doesn't really matter. And make sure you're giving to God everything he wants, and you're not trying to hold on to stuff. And just make sure you're trying to build up an inheritance in heaven.